Wagwan, welcome to Make We Talk Now, brought to you by the Skylar Genesis Foundation. The Skylar Genesis Foundation is a non-profit organization geared towards bringing healing to mothers and fathers who have lost children to premature birth, stillbirths, and miscarriages. I'm your host, Stephanie Linton from SL Closet. Today we have with us Lojuan Mead, CEO of the Skylar Genesis Foundation. Make We Talk Now. Welcome, Lojuan.
Thank you.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about what the Skylar Genesis Foundation is about for person who just don't know what it's about. First time knowing about this. What's up?
Okay, sure. So we are geared towards mothers and fathers whom have suffered the loss of an infant, whether through premature labor, stillbirth, or miscarriages, because I think a lot of persons are not really open to having the conversation or even trying to seek help or just, sharing experience with others, and we want to bring that into Jamaica because we do have people overseas that are currently doing these things. I think Jamaican persons are just not as open to these things, so we want to bring awareness to it, and we want to start a process for persons to actually start healing or grieving better than they would have, or just ignoring the fact.
Okay. What made you start this foundation? What gave you the idea? So okay, then maybe if I have a foundation like this, so what made you start it?
Through experience, actually.
Through experience.
I did have a daughter, Skylar Genesis, brand.
So now you see where the Genesis is
from,
okay.
Right? But she died a few hours after birth.
A few hours.
A few hours, about 10 hours or less, I think. She was born prematurely. Some would say due to stress.
Yeah, I was about to ask what caused baby to born prematurely. What would have been the cause? But you said some people
due to stress. We had, an argument that would have been the father and myself, and the argument led to a form of blackout, right? And I was aware that I had high blood pressure prior to that event, and they rushed me to the hospital, of course. And with that checking, they found out that, well, at first they were like, everything is fine, you can leave, and they were like, no, stay so we can check within you like an hour or two. And then within an hour or two, I was about 3 or 4 centimeters dilated, and that is where they're like, okay, you're not supposed to be dilating so fast because you're just 6 months.
I was just about to ask how much.
Right.
6 months.
Right, and then with that, they said, okay, these are your options. You can do surgery to kind of close that gap and go on bed rest for the rest of the period, or you can see what happens with the dilation. And of course that started a lot of arguments with myself and the father. Still and the parents, because the grandparents are very vocal on my side and his, so but I think not to take away any form of authority or anything from him, I was dead set against just doing the surgery because it's the best to me at 6 months of survival. So 6 months and some weeks, but 6 months.
How has that affected Lojuan?
Some would say it would have made me a little bit more, I don't want to say the word weak, but I'm not as stern as I used to be back then, just nonchalant or whatever. Things affect me more, like maybe watching a movie that has babies or seeing a mother and daughter passing by and just not being able to share that experience. So
have you healed from that moment? You feel like you have healed, that you're strong enough? How you feel like when Mother's Day come, because you're doing this for Mother's Day as well? So how do you feel to know that, okay, then it is Mother's Day, I lost my daughter? How does it make you feel?
I still struggle with the holidays, and I don't think any one parent will heal like completely from an experience like this. It does affect your mental state and a lot of persons, and emotional state, I'm sorry. A lot of persons don't acknowledge that. So for me, Mother's Day or her birthday or any time around the part where the conceiving began, it's very, very emotional, and a lot of persons don't, a lot of my friends and family don't realize, because most times I'm either locked away or with maybe one other person.
Okay, so what has been your coping mechanism when you cope?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't have an answer to that because there's so many. I just try to live life, I guess. I'm very, I mean, I was always open to different things, but if you look at life back then and life now, for me, you'd see more adventures, just more, being more loving, just trying to take every opportunity to seize, because even in 2022 now, with all the death rates and the violence, I really just try to just be loving, be kind, because it takes really a really small amount of, you know, to be kind to somebody, and because you never know what people are going through. So I feel like I just want to ensure that I'm always the person I would want somebody to be to me.
Yeah, I like that. I like that too. So how would you describe losing a child in your perspective of things?
I think, or for me, it's a very traumatic experience, and I think even the strongest of us can say that it has affected them in some way, because you know, just not being able to say that you got, you know, when you just find out say you're pregnant, it's just like, oh, you know, you have some people think, for keep it, or you know, but it's not just about that, because I think for some of us, myself, when I got pregnant, I wasn't even aware I could have kids, because just maybe like a week or two before that, when we went to the doctor, myself and him at the time, they were like, oh, you have PCOS, and you know, your chances to getting pregnant is slim to none. So we were like, okay, let's have fun.
PCOS, for those who don't know, what would you say?
PCOS. I wouldn't say it's a disease, but it is something that restricts or can be problematic for having kids in future. So when I found out, I was like, okay, let's just, you know, we're having fun, but if it happens, we're good. If it happens to happen, we're fine. If not, then, you know, we'll continue to live a life, gallivant and whatever, because he's very adventurous. So, you know, when I found out I was pregnant, I was really sick from work, really sick, which is, it's not a red flag because I can be sickly, but it was just weird, and when I found out, I was like ecstatic, because it's like, you know, for know that something where you couldn't do, you get for having the opportunity, and I'm really a kids person, so it's really a bonus. So at first it's more like shock and just wondering what my mother would have thought, because you know, we were still young, not too young, but young enough where I should have been enrolled in college doing what I was doing. So it's a different part to take, but I don't think it's a shameful part to take, if anything.
One word that would describe you now.
One word. Just adventurous, I guess.
Adventurous. I was gonna ask you what you learned from it, but I heard you said earlier that you learned more to appreciate and love, and
yes,
so I guess that is what you would have learned from that experience.
Basically just to be able to relate to things and be open, listen more, you know, allow people to express themselves, think outside the box, because it doesn't always mean you know, this particular behavior would have been caused by something, or because the person has no manners or whatever. Some people are just going through a lot, and I can appreciate that. You're
planning on trying again?
Not for my mother's ears. But I wouldn't say we attempted initially, but I did think at one point I was, and I mean, all the signs were there, and I was for a period of time. Let me backtrack. I did not want to have a conversation about it, so trying again was never in books. But then, as a lot of my friends, people around me in my environment, it was just like, oh, I wonder, you know, but just never get to do it myself, and even though I have so much happening now in my life, I still would have wanted to experience that. So I like to think that we have tried again. It wasn't successful. We had, or at the time, we weren't together at the time. We were still very much intimate, but I did a test and it came back positive, and I was like, okay, but within a few weeks of that, the menstrual came again. So I didn't go to the doctors to find out if that was a miscarriage or whatever, but based on the fact that the menstrual came, it just, so.
Well, how do you feel now talking about Skylar?
So I think it depends on the person and the environment and the state of mind, because on a good day like today, I can have the conversation openly, and maybe to other persons that I know have experienced it, I can, because remember the aim of the foundation is to provide that much needed support. So if the person leading the foundation can't hold that conversation, it would have sent a red flag. And so I would try to be a little bit stronger than if I'm talking to maybe the father or a close friend or family. So I think it depends on who and when, because sometimes I really can't have the conversation. It's just...
How long ago you started the foundation?
Officially 2 years ago. It was a conversation that I actually had with my friend. It was on her birthday, and I always try to celebrate her birthday in some way. If it's not, going out to take photos or buying a cake and just any type of way to do that. And that was the second birthday, the friend was like, you could do whatever, and that's how the conversation became about. And I was thinking about it, and I just didn't know if it was a good thing to do. And then we talked about it for a while, and within a few months I started to see the persons on my team one by one. That took a few more months, and on the third birthday is when I officially said, okay,
this is it.
Where I go.
What do you plan to achieve from the foundation?
Well, we do have a 3-step process that I constructed when I was doing the whole business plan, etc. And the first step would have been for the focus groups to have different parents, mothers and fathers, and I feel like we don't include the fathers enough. So mothers and fathers to come in and talk about it, and be open to share their experience whenever or at whatever point they are comfortable to do that, and maybe be some form of inspiration to other persons who don't want to have a conversation. So that's the first step. Ultimately, what I was trying to accomplish, which is a really, really big step, and it will take a few years, but I'm going to get it done.
Yes.
I've seen other persons like Shaggy tried it, and I mean, nothing tried, nothing done. I really want, for premature babies specifically, being able to provide the relevant machines, equipments rather, medications if needed, or support, because I feel like Jamaica don't have the necessary items to maintain a preemie baby. Because if you read the internet, you can see that babies have survived at 5 months, and for no reason us here, and I'm not saying that it's a 100% sure thing, but it's a better chance of survival. I feel like out here, because they only have maybe the incubators and the pumps and stuff and whatever medication it is that they gave the baby that exploded her lungs, here there's nothing to really ensure that or give a strong percentage of the child surviving. And I really want to make the necessary connections overseas or wherever I need to go to have those connections made, to bring those type of materials, equipments, medications, whatever we need to get here in Jamaica to help the survival rate of premature babies.
So earlier, I like the fact that you include fathers. Earlier, I heard you talk about fathers. How does the fathers react to situations like this?
Not well.
Because men don't talk. We don't know what they're going
emotions through. And
how do they cope with this? How them come to you if you say, okay, then they're feeling this? How do they express themselves? Stuff like, you get through to the fathers on this? Well,
I'd be lying if I said that I have. I don't think I have accomplished, not even with the very father involved, because we might have conversations about what it would have been like or stuff like that, but if I was supposed to explain exactly how he felt in that time frame, I can't tell you, because he's so what's the word I want to use now, private, And I think the male ego speaks a lot to that.
Which would have been what most men think. Really.
And you know what's crazy? One of my clients that I got in touch with recently, well, a few months back actually, but she wasn't responding as quickly, and because of that I didn't want to pressure her, so I kind of laid back. But a few weeks ago I reached out back to her just to see where she was in terms of mental state and emotional state, and she was saying to me that she's still very much involved with her spouse, and since then they have had multiple miscarriages still, and they're still trying, etc. And I was like, the point that she brought us up, I was like, maybe you can both come and have a conversation. She's like, no, that never happened. Right? I was like, why not? And she's like, no, but just based on what she was saying, you could have seen that it was around the fact of embarrassment to some extent. And I'm like, why do men feel like it's embarrassing? There's no reason to shame somebody that has gone through, because it's not something that you would have chosen, I don't think, any one particular person. And I feel like just as how we as mothers would have been excited to see, especially if the baby is born prematurely and you get to hold that baby. You see, the person you were before and after that situation is so different, and just being able to that level of love and the fact that you have to be the person that's going to now lead that baby changes your mindset or how you would have felt about a baby maybe at the beginning of the pregnancy. So I think
all the best with that, because I really do hope the fathers speak on it, because it's really a serious thing, and it's really good to talk about it, because I know society put us in a place where men that talk about them feelings, and if you talk about your feelings you're too vulnerable, or we know the words, but really and truly it is a problem, it is an issue, and it does affect men mentally as well. So I feel like this is a good platform for everybody to come, just
have a conversation. We could talk about it.
Yeah. So is there a particular way that you attack the situation? You have counselors on board, psychologists. What is it that you have on board to help these process of to these individuals?
We do have different approaches, like you said. We do have a counselor, we have a spiritual advisor on board as well, and we just have persons through experience, because a lot of persons, initially myself, when I just went through the experience, the first thing that I was at UA, by the way, the first thing that the counselor that came to me was like, oh, here's my card if you want to talk about it. And immediately I was like, no, talk about what? She died. I was pregnant and no, I'm not. There's no need to have a conversation. So I feel like when most persons hear the word counselor, they don't, because I'm like, oh, why people alone talk to counselor?
And my shrink and
but I want to talk to them, right? Yeah. So I think, we have the option for persons who want to utilize it. Let's just say they don't want to speak to the four of us here, for example, and they would prefer to talk one-on-one with a counselor. But remember, having a conversation with a counselor is much different from talking in a group. You don't feel as pressured. And I think that
the one-on-one, I think it brings security and calmness, so you feel welcome to say, okay, then we can sell a little topic here or whatever.
Right. So we have the focus groups, which is it's really peer oriented. Only persons who have experienced this type of situation or something near to this situation would have been involved. There's no particular person that is in charge, or just a space to come and speak freely. Listen, I went through this. If it even is just to say, I had a daughter and her name was Skylar, and if that's all you want to say, that's fine. And then we have the spiritual advice, because you have people who strongly believe in their God, and I can appreciate that. And for persons who would have preferred to go through the church to analyze or whatever it is that they need to get through that, then that option is there as well. So we have we have the focus groups and many more stuff to come.
Yes.
In the future.
Yes. I really do hope you get all the sponsorship you need. So most of you all don't know, I've known Lojuan we worked together for a period of time, and it's so weird that Lojuan and I came this close because she was pregnant. So when she was pregnant, she was going through a lot. Like, I've seen her, and I can tell you, I admire your growth. You've gone through it, girl. So I mean, yeah, as I said, she was going through it. I should I say, yo, should have a baby, I should have no, and that is it. She never come, like, that is it. Should have shut down. So to see her at this place, it says a lot, and I really do hope Skylar Genesis take off where you want it to go, and really all the best, Lojuan, and yeah, you're gonna need. That's why we get the sponsorship. We soon tell you more. So I guess you guys are wondering really if this is episode 1, by the way. We're coming with other episodes, so you can tell them a little bit about what this talk show is about. Again, she is the CEO for this. Also, she's multi-talented because we have done multiple jobs before. Now she has been my makeup artist for the Glam Bar for quite some time now. So she's the CEO for Skyface Creations
as well.
Yes. So yeah, she go with herself. So tell them a little bit about what this episode is about. Make we talk now.
Alright, so you want me to be talking to them or talking to you?
Yeah, I mean, they can talk to them, can be, right? So talk to them what's about.
Alright, so make we talk about it now. It's really a platform where persons would have wanted to share their story, much like the focus groups, but you know, to go out there and influence other parents to come forward and have a conversation about it. It's basically all you want to say about your experience, your pregnancy, your infant, just the whole entire experience that you've been through on the platform, one-on-one with the host, and just to share. And there's no audience, so it's just you, the host, and the cameraman that will be doing this. And I think it will help to bring, like I said before, awareness and just maybe influence another parent to come and talk about it and bring some form of grief or healing. You know, tonight.
In a world where we really do need healing, sometimes it's so taboo to talk about what we're going through as human. We feel like, okay, then we can't express self, and you don't have the platform for it. So I mean, this is what we really need going forward, because we are going to treat as humans. So I really do love this, and I'm happy to be a part of it. One more thing, what advice would you give to somebody that is going through the loss of a child?
Take your time. I think don't rush it, you know, go through the motions. Just I wouldn't say talk, but if you do have a spouse that you can share the experience with, yeah, have a conversation with him and see what it's about, or her. Or her. But take your time. I think it's a process, and nothing happens in a day. You will have questions, which is really, really normal. I asked a lot of questions at one point. I really stopped believing in church altogether. I think now I'm coming around back to the whole situation. But just take your time, one day at a time, literally one day at a time. And whatever emotions you're feeling in that particular day, I feel like you should embrace them. If you need to cry, as my friends will always say, come back. You know, when you feel so much better after the cry, and encourage your partner as well if they're not, you know, some partners shut down. But if you and your partner, I would have expected that, you know, you guys are intimate and stuff like that, are open to have a conversation, etc. You know, cry with the person. If you need to cry with the person.
I think crying is a form of release.
It is.
Then you feel so frustrated and overwhelmed, and you just cry, and it's like, okay, then you're back to normal. So thank you, Lojuan. I want to tell you thank you for sharing your story. I really do hope someone is inspired by this, a mom or dad that is going through the same emotions right now. You know, you do have platform, you can talk about it and express yourself. It's just to really find the right platform that you're comfortable with. So thank you for your time. We want to tell you thank you for being here for our very first episode. You know, you have to comment and tell me if you like it, so we can know what to do for the next episode. I want to thank the man behind the camera, Ray Russell. Big up yourself all the time. I'm your host, Stephanie Linton. You can follow me on my Instagram handle at sl.closet_multi-services. What's your Instagram handle?
Which one of them?
Which one? About the Skylar Genesis Foundation.
Well, every platform at this point. I think we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, you know, we're on all those different platforms, and it's basically the name of the foundation, Skylar Genesis Foundation, and also the website. Once you type it in, you should see it come up.
Yeah, so there you have it. Thank you guys so much. Do see you next week. Mwah. Happy Mother's Day.